Good morning, everyone. I'm back on the road again, and today I'm in Duluth, Georgia, of course, Duluth, at the Nextran Truck Center. We're going to spend some time with Terry Barrows, who is Nextran's Vice President and General Manager for their Atlanta area operations. Terry and I began doing business together back in my Fulton Concrete days, so I do know him pretty well, and the fact that we're both graduates of Georgia Tech certainly makes for a strong bond. Go Jackets. Terry, thank you for taking time to meet with us and help us with this oral history project of our industry, of which you guys are an integral part, a very important part. But let's start with you first. Let's take a few minutes, if you could, Terry, and just who is Terry Barrows?
Thank you, Bill. And first of all, it's an honor to be included in this project. You can't be in the Mack truck business without being associated with the ready mix business. And but to tell you who I am, I'm a native Atlantan, born in Atlanta at St. Joseph's Hospital in downtown. Both of my parents are native Atlantans and grew up in the East Lake area. I grew up in Kirkwood, if you know where that is, and went to Kirkwood Elementary School. Later moved out to DeKalb County and graduated from Towers High School in DeKalb County. As you already mentioned, we share an alma mater. Graduated from Georgia Tech in 1972. I spent a brief time working for a carpet manufacturer before I got in the truck business, but I was raised in Kirkwood. My parents were married for 64 years before my dad passed away. My dad was a mechanic, and my entire life he owned a service station. I grew up working in a service station, started at a very early age, pumping gas and washing windshields. And I'll mention this a little later on about influences, but I learned a lot from him about how to operate a business and how to give customer service. But as mentioned, went to Georgia Tech. While I was going to school there, met a guy that introduced me. I went to work for a trucking company, and that working part-time while I attended school, and that set me on the path to where I ended up today. It's a long, involved story. I'm not going to get into all of that. But after going to Tech, working at the trucking company, I met Fred Taylor, and he offered me a job in 1974 working for Georgia Mack Sales in South Georgia. And my first job was as general manager of a little bitty Mack dealership in Valdosta. Wow. And I had 6 employees, so no matter how bad I did, I could only mess up so much. But it was a great education for me.
Well, that's new information for me, and I knew there would be new information in this process, even though we've been together for many years. Tell us now. Tell us the Nextran story. Give us, how you were introduced to Nextran and the history of Nextran. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, Nextran has an interesting history. It actually began with Marvin Pritchett, who had a logging operation, small trucking operation in Florida and Lake Butler. And in 1993, Marvin and his son John bought the Mack dealership in Jacksonville and Orlando. So they started off with 2 locations. So they changed from being a customer to a dealer. And they began to grow. They bought Tampa a few years later, built a store in Lake City, acquired 3 locations in South Florida. And then in 2001, they bought Mack Sales of Atlanta, which included the Atlanta store downtown in Kennesaw. I was already operating as the general manager of Mack Sales of Atlanta, so they got me in the deal. So 2001 to currently, they have grown from those original 2 stores to 25 locations in 7 states.
Wow.
And
wow.
1,300 employees. We are considered to be the largest Mac dealer in the country, which makes us the largest Mac dealer in the world based on number of units sold.
See, I didn't know that. I didn't realize you were that big.
Well, it's come about. The last acquisition was in 2021. That was the Westfall Odell operation, which put us into Missouri, Colorado, and Wyoming. So that was a big acquisition for us.
Talk a little bit about, and this is, it kind of goes along with another question I have. I've got several questions. One question, of course, is I always like to hear about big challenges that truck manufacturers, which is your business, that you're facing at this time, but also as I listen to you and you talk about this incredible growth and success of Nextran, it's kind of a two-part question. What do you think were the keys? What is it about Nextran that's really contributed to the success of the obvious success of the business? And then kind of also talk about today, as you've been around a long time, what are the really big challenges in the business? So 2 parts.
Well, Bill, I'll tackle the challenges first of all, because they're the same challenges I think that are posed to the membership and other industries. One is the globalization of manufacturing. We encountered that as a challenge post-COVID when we had such massive supply chain disruptions and the inability to get small pieces that go into making a big truck. So the globalization is one. I think the other challenge, particularly to the truck industry, which bleeds over into the ready-mix industry, is the race to zero emissions.
Yes.
We really don't know what the solution is going to be, whether it's electrification, which we're getting into, hydrogen fuel cells. The technology is the third challenge, I think, is adapting to all that technology, whether it's collision avoidance, cameras, all the things that we've added to the equipment over time that's taken a very simple machine.
Yes.
And you're an engineer.
Yes.
There's nothing much simpler than a diesel engine. You know, you got air, fuel, and timing, and you make it run, right?
Yes, yes.
But all the peripherals that we've added to these trucks have now made them a much, much more complex piece of machinery. So when you look at after-treatment systems, you're not only an electrical engineer, but you're a chemical engineer to make sure that we process all those diesel fumes and particulate matter and clean up that air before it gets out into the atmosphere. So technology, the race to zero emissions and what that's going to look like going forward are massive challenges, not only for the truck manufacturing industry, but for the customers that use those trucks, and that's everybody.
Let me pause you just a moment, because the questions are starting to pop in my head. But you mentioned, the supply chain challenges, which seem to be improving. I'm sure they are. But if you could speak a little bit to some of the ways that you've adapted to some of those challenges, anything that you would say about what Nextran has done in the face of supply chain management and what you feel like your organization has done to really improve that situation.
Well, it was we learned to adapt, and I tell people all the time when we started buying parts on eBay and Amazon to satisfy customers and get trucks running. Early on, I had to raise the limit on my credit card so that I could buy EGR coolers and EGR valves from providers. And now, it's that's become normal for us. We don't accept that somebody's on national back order. We find it. the interesting thing is our customers have the same access to the internet that we do. So if they can find it, then I can find it. So we've learned to do that. We've increased inventories. We've changed our algorithm so that we have a longer lead times factored into our inventory. We keep about 18,000 different part numbers in our inventory in Atlanta, about $4 million worth of parts.
Wow.
And we have to service a wide range of vehicles. You know, Mack trucks stay on the road for a long time, so we have to service the legacy product as well as the current product. So we've made a lot of adaptations to overcome that supply chain, but I'd be lying if I told you that we're 100% in our fill rate. We're not. We still run into shortages from time to time and disappoint people when that happens.
So, yeah, that makes sense, perfect sense. And now the other part of my question was around the things that the attributes or the characteristics of Nextran that you see over the years that have really contributed to the clear success of the company. What would you say is like the DNA? It's in the DNA. It's just something about your company that you're really proud of, and you feel like it's, success factor, if you will.
Well, Bill, it's people, and it starts with the leadership of John Pritchett. He sets the example for us all, and he and his father owned a trucking company before they owned a Mack dealership, so they understand what the needs of the customer are. The other thing I think that differentiates Nextran from other truck dealerships is the level of autonomy that John affords his general managers, and I'm eternally grateful for that, because I have been micromanaged in the past, and
oh yeah,
and he just allows us to run our business locally, and we understand the local market. We have the relationships with the people, and he trusts us and me and my team to do what we have to do. And I'm very blessed to have a great team of people that work around me. So it's the people that have to fulfill the promises that I make.
Well, and to that point, Cameron Freeman is on our board. He's been very, very helpful the last 2 years here that I've been back. We're so pleased to have him because he's made a lot of sacrifices in time and energy to engage with us, to help us, and we really do appreciate Cameron. And I know you're tickled to have him on your team. Let me ask you this, and you alluded to this, but I'm always curious to hear about people who have been big influences on you in your career, and who are they and how talk about how they influenced you in what ways. Well,
I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Fred Taylor again. He and Harold Pitts hired me to run that little dealership in Valdosta. I was 24 years old and knew nothing at all about the business or what I was getting into, and he trusted me to go down there and learn. And it was truly on-the-job training, and it was an education that I couldn't get at Georgia Tech, because if the parts manager was sick, I was the parts manager. If the service manager was out on vacation, I was the service manager. I was the only truck salesman, but once again, it was so small that I could only mess up so much at a time. But after that, the customers have been the biggest influence on me. Farrell and Kenny Scruggs kind of took me under their wing when I first got to Valdosta. They needed to have a successful Mack dealer there, and they helped me meet the people and learn the business. And I've oftentimes said that those customers in Valdosta taught me what customer service was all about.
Yes.
And but having said that, the other big influence on that aspect of my career was my dad. When I learned to work with him, every customer got their windshield washed, their oil checked, the air and tires checked. So the basis was set very early for me as to what constituted customer service. Jim Bland's another big influencer on me. I left Atlanta or Georgia in 1983 to go to work for him and his dealership in North Carolina. So, as I mentioned before, you can't be in the Mac business and not be associated with the ready mix business. So I was active in the North Carolina Ready Mix Association while I was there. In 1992, I moved back to Atlanta, to my hometown, to work for Mac Sales of Atlanta, starting as a sales manager. And I'll tell this story that Chuck Garriman told me. He said, you need to be active in the Ready Mix Association. They've got a convention coming up. I need you to attend it. So I met Sam Morris, and I registered for Ponte Vedra, and I went down there. I started working in March and went to the convention that summer, not knowing anybody or anything, and I went by myself. I had no idea that it was a family affair, and what I learned from that, and I already knew it, but I broke one of my own rules. I went to the prom looking for a date, and everybody had already paired up. Everybody knew who was going out to dinner with who, and I said, man, I really wasted a lot of money and time coming to this convention. So when I got back to Atlanta, I called Sam. I said, I need to meet with Ray Easton, who was the chairman at the time of the association. And I met him at the association headquarters, and I said, look, I want to be active. I want to get involved, and what can I do to be more active with this association? And he said, I've been contemplating starting an associate members committee. He said, would you be interested in chairing it? And I said, well, yeah. So I would say that as far as the association goes, Ray Easton had a big impact on me, and I chaired that committee for the first 3 or 4 years that it existed.
No kidding.
And then gave that over to somebody else, and I don't remember who at the time, but it allowed me to meet all the right people and to develop the relationships that have kept me in this business for all these years in Atlanta. So those are the big influencers, and certainly John Pritchett. I mean, the buying Atlanta and leaving me in charge of this place, and you're sitting in our flagship store here in Duluth, and
beautiful facility.
Yeah, we are very, very proud of this facility. I hope we get a chance to give you a tour of it when we get done with this interview. But those are the people that changed my life, that made me stay in this industry all these years, and it's the relationships that we've developed through that period of time.
Yes. You kind of you're set up for my next question, which is, and you alluded to it, but the benefits, when you look back over the years, what are some of the benefits to members when you're part of the Ready Mix Concrete Association here? What do you get from that? It's not free. You pay dues, but what's the value?
Well, Bill, I've already said it. It's the relationships that you develop over time. It gives you an opportunity, particularly at the different meetings and the convention, to be in a relaxed atmosphere where you're not in a selling mode, and you get to learn people for what they are. When I went back to the Ponte Vedra the second year, I had kids with me. And the other thing, that was the year that we started the tradition of giving out the Mac T-shirts to the kids.
Yes.
And
yes, we appreciate that.
It's real gratifying when you go down there and you see all the kids on the beach with your built like a Mac truck T-shirt. Yeah. So, but even more than that, the technical advice that you give the members and the different things that you provide for them, the lobbying part of it. Weight loss, all the things that our customers that not only in the ready mix industry, but you think about the peripheral people that we deal with that deliver the sand and deliver the cement and deliver the rock to your members, and we support those people as well.
Yes.
And I think there's an interdependency that exists in the ready mix industry that doesn't necessarily. I mean, you've got some vertical integration,
right,
but at the same time, you rely on a lot of people in the ready mix industry to deliver your product.
Yes.
And we're just one of them. We're just one of them. So it's, but it gets back to what your question was. It is all about the relationships and being able to relate to people on a personal level as well as a professional level.
Yes. Well said. And you're right. It's the interdependency. The interdependency of this business is just, I've never seen anything like it. I grew up I cut my teeth in pulp and paper, and there was certainly a fair amount of that, loggers and the foresters and that supply chain. But boy, this industry is, you've got aggregate, you've got cement, you've got admixtures, you've got the plant equipment, the trucks, and now with all the sophistication, there's cameras and other telemetry. It's unbelievable. And I was thinking when you were talking about the sophistication of a concrete mixer, when I came into this industry in 2002, that was really on an upswing. We still had some, we had, manual transmissions with no air conditioning. The drivers would have a fan on their dashboard. I'd go out with them, and some of those old trucks were pretty rough. And then very quickly in time, you've got Allison transmissions coming in and air conditioning, and now the cabs look like Cadillacs. It's just such it's really interesting, but I really appreciate those perspectives. This is another question I'm always interested in hearing, and that is you consider where we are in this cycle of in the business and everything. What advice for young leaders coming in, whether in sales or operations and whatever area, but the young folks coming in, what advice would you offer about anything as far as success in business, success specifically in the truck manufacturing, but just in general? What would you say?
Well, Bill, I don't think advice is unique to an industry or to a type of business. When I talk about leadership to my team, there's a few things that I always try to emphasize. First and foremost, business is like life. It is a long game, and you have to play a long game, and that's evidenced by, if nothing else, my tenure in what we do. Going along with that long game is never ever think transactionally. You can't look at a transaction and its profitability or viability if you're playing a long game. It's the value of the customer and what that customer means to you over a long period of time. And if you think that way, then you'll make good decisions based on that long game and not on a single transaction. And then finally, I think in 50 years in this business, the amount of change that I've experienced is continuing to accelerate. You mentioned telemetry. Well, the telematics that we have available to us now, years ago I would go into a customer and I would ask them how their fleet was doing. Now I can go into a customer and tell them how their fleet's doing. I can fuel economy, brake stops, all the stuff that they need help with to help manage their fleet of trucks. But going along with that concept, the change, it's what I tell my people here and what I tell my children and my grandchildren. In this day and age, it's not good enough to embrace change. You have to create change.
That's a great point.
And that's what we're trying to do. We're doing some things here in the realm of helping our customers manage their maintenance. My people like to tell me we're cutting edge. I'm not sure that we're doing anything that somebody else is not doing, but we have to do a better job of helping our customers successfully run their fleets, and that taking an active role where we're monitoring their equipment, advising them of problems that may be existing in the future, helping them schedule their maintenance so that they take care of this equipment properly. It's way too expensive to neglect.
Yes.
But that's it. Create change. Have an atmosphere around you where we're willing to try new and different things that are not traditionally in the realm of a truck dealership. That's what's going to make this team successful long after I'm gone.
Those are great insights, Terry, and I really do like and appreciate your comment about creating change. It seems like sometimes life's a whirlwind and you're just trying to adapt and keep up, and certainly there's probably always going to be that dimension. But I think from a leadership standpoint, to what you said is so good. You have to I think put a lot of energy into creating change and innovating, and sometimes in our business that can be feel like a luxury. You feel like you're always trying to keep up with an ever-changing world. But I this facility, and by the way, I'm sitting here and I'm looking. There's a lot of glass. I can look around, and of course, I see a big bulldog, a big Mac. I mean, you can't walk 20 feet in here without seeing that wonderful emblem. But I am so grateful to you for taking time to visit with us and contribute to this project and give us a really important part of it, an essential part of it. And I really do thank you, Terry, and I appreciate your friendship all these years. It seems like it's gone by awfully quick, but I do appreciate it, and I wish you the very best, my friend.
Well, thank you, Bill. I think this is a very important thing that you're doing. I do want to step back just a minute and tell you that being a Georgia Tech graduate, the hardest thing I've ever had to do is pin that bulldog on my lapel every day coming to work. But thanks again for allowing me to be part of this.
Oh boy, I never made that connection. You kind of ruined it for me now every time I see it. But anyway, thanks again. Take care. Thanks everybody. Bye bye.